See it before you drive it. Sky Witness traffic only on Channel 8.
It just wouldn't seem like the holidays without a battle brewing between residents and station casinos. Last year it was Red Rock Station, and now hotel executives say the same rabble-rousers who led that revolt are lending support to neighbors opposed to the planned Durango Station. Is this another case of the locals casino giant getting what it wants, or is it much ado about nothing? We'll ask the man in charge of government relations for Station Casinos, Executive Vice President Scott Nielson, next on Face to Face. Welcome to Face to Face. I'm Jon Ralston. Is Station Casinos really cutting off talks with those residents for responsible growth up in Summerlin? They're the folks who fought against the 300-foot tower at Red Rock Station and won some concessions. The two sides were to meet last week on the designs of signs planned for Red Rock Station, but a company representative canceled the meeting, complaining the group is coaching Spring Valley residents concerned about the planned Durango Station and mounting political opposition to neighborhood casinos in general. The residents say that's not true and acknowledge the contributions Station Casinos has made to the valley. Meanwhile, the county commission is set to decide this week on an extension for Durango Station planned for the southwest edge of the 215 Beltway and on the size and designs of signs for Red Rock Station. Joining me now, Station Casinos Executive Vice President Scott Nielson. Welcome to the program. Happy holidays.
Thank you, John. Same to you.
Now, there's a lot of stations to talk about today, at least two of them, and I want to give you an opportunity to clear up some misconceptions about all this. But first, let's take a look at what I alluded to before, and that's an email that Terry Murphy, a consultant for your company, sent last week to these so-called activists. As the meeting we'd scheduled included people who have engaged in recent political activities against Station Casinos, Mr. Nielsen has decided to cancel that meeting. The company will be meeting with a variety of neighborhood groups, but will not be meeting with activists who appear to be specifically targeting them. Now, no group of activists is targeting your company. Do you really think that?
Yeah, I do think that.
Really?
I honestly do.
Targeting in what way?
I think they have an agenda, whether it's for their own personal aggrandizement or for other purposes, to oppose our company in a lot of different areas. And to try to, I guess, bring up issues associated with our company and put those in the media as much as possible. And I think that's a planned program that certain people in this valley have.
Devil's advocate here, I mean, don't residents of any area have a right to have input on what's going to be built, whether it's a casino or a grocery store or a 7-Eleven? I mean, there's opposition to so-called neighborhood casinos. Size, scale, scope. You ran into it at Red Rock Station. We'll talk about that. Don't they have a right to how their community is going to look?
Absolutely. And, you know, we pride ourselves on going out and meeting with homeowners and meeting with residents that have legitimate concerns. And that's, you know, what we had planned to do with this group. Obviously, as you said, we worked with them previously. But when we saw what their activities were, their participation in political campaigns, their participation in opposition to our project that's in a different part of the valley, it led me to believe that they are not a legitimate, concerned group of homeowners, neighbors, that they have another agenda.
So they were involved, I'm sorry to interrupt you, so what you're referring to, so people know, they were involved in David Goldwater's campaign. I believe they did a mail piece for him against Lynette Boggs McDonald. Isn't that legitimate? That's political speech. They thought that David Goldwater would better represent them than Lynette Boggs McDonald, who everyone knows used to be on your board. Why isn't that legitimate?
It's legitimate for them to do that, but I don't believe that then makes them a legitimate group of homeowners that I need to sit down and negotiate something with. What I wanted to do is reach out truly to the people that live in that area and are going to be the most impacted by what we're doing with those signs. And so we reached out and we met with the boards of the homeowners associations. The people have been elected by the people that live there to represent them. And we sat down and explained what the signs were and came away from two, you know, extensive meetings, I think, with the feeling that they supported what we were doing.
Do you believe then, and let's be blunt about this, that these activists, Gabe Leither, Lisa Mayo DeRiso, some of these others who were involved in Red Rock Station really represent a very small number of people and don't represent the homeowners you need to talk to in both these cases?
That's absolutely the case. And I think, you know, I personally like Gabe and I like Lisa, but I think they have other agendas that they're working on, and they don't necessarily represent the homeowners, because we know that. We have sat down with other homeowners associations, the Red Rock Country Club group, for example, and they're clearly not aligned or in agreement with Gabe and Lisa and others.
But besides getting publicity, what possible agenda do they have? Do you think these folks like getting their names in the newspaper? Is that what it's about?
I think they're motivated by a number of different things. I think they do have concerns, and And for example, some of them don't live anywhere near Red Rock Station, but they are concerned about precedents are going to be set. But you know, I wonder about how far that can carry forward, because every instance is different, I believe. But they do have a number of different motivations, and you know, whether it's for they intend to pursue political careers or whether they just like seeing their names in the paper. I think that there are a number of reasons they're doing this.
Well, we hope to get them to come and tell us about their motivations on a later program. When we come back, I do want to talk about controversy over the signs, and we have some pictures we're going to show people about what they're going to look like. And let's talk about Durango Station. Is there really a picture of this somewhere that you're hiding in the basement of Green Valley Ranch? We'll talk about that when we come back with Executive Vice President of Station Casinos, Scott Nielson.
The House plans a late vote today on intelligence reform. It is a crucial test of the president's leadership after key House Republicans sunk the measure 2 weeks ago. The latest from Washington tonight. Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Gillen. We'll also talk with the head of the Culinary Union about his victory getting union representation at the Aladdin. Watch News 1 at 9.
Hi, my name is Tim Newton. I'm the General Manager of Timbers on Craig and Tenaya. And on behalf of all the employees at Timbers Hospitality Group and the people at Nevada Beverage, we wish you a safe and happy holiday season. And please, drink responsibly.
You're watching Face to Face with Jon Ralston.
Welcome back to the program. Scott Nielson, who runs the government relations as the Executive Vice President of Station Casinos, is here. Of course, the company's in the news again with two projects. The Red Rock Station has a sign approval coming up, and Durango Station down at 215 in the Beltway, 215 in Durango is coming online. You mentioned these activists, and I just want to finish this up. Gabe Leither, who you mentioned, and ran for the city council, and it started this whole Summerlin group up there. Here's what he had to say to the RJ yesterday. If they're only willing to meet with people who agree with them, what good is that? So I guess what I'd ask you is you're a big company, very successful company. Maybe all you're trying to do is create the appearance of having the approval of homeowners, and anyone who disagrees with what you're trying to do, you'll shut them out. That's essentially what he's saying. True or not?
No, it's absolutely not true. You know, as I said, we met with and sat down with the elected representatives of the Homeowners Association of Summerlin, just casting the net very broadly, and really looked for those people that legitimately represented people up there. Didn't know if they would agree with us or disagree with us when we sat down with them, made our presentation, and they came away believing the signs were very appropriate.
Do you find that most people that you're talking to, and be honest, are they opposed to neighborhood casinos? Are they opposed to casinos at all? Are they opposed to the size? What is the prevalent feeling that you're getting from these residents?
It's across the board, John. I would say that there's a small group that's opposed to neighborhood casinos. If they could take them all away or make sure that there weren't any more built, they would do that. Most people recognize, though, living in Las Vegas, that the neighborhood casino in the appropriate place it needs to be there, or can be there, and can work. And then there are most of the people who really frequent our casinos and come and enjoy, you know, whether they go to the movies or eat or, you know, gamble, they enjoy having those amenities at least somewhere near where they live.
Let's talk about this planned Durango Station. There's been a great uproar over this because of the casino, the entitlement to having being bigger than the MGM Grand. You recently wrote a letter last week, I believe it was, to some of the residents out in Spring Valley. Let me read you part of that. When we purchased the property, we received certain entitlements obtained by the previous owner, which included permission to build a 215,000 square foot casino. We have never built a project with a casino of that size and have no plans to do so at this site. In fact, anyone who tells you that we are trying to obtain permission to build a casino of that size is not telling the truth, because we are just beginning the design phase of this project. Okay, what is it going to look like? How big is it going to be?
As I said in that letter, and it's the truth, we don't know yet. We know that what we have built in the past, our largest casino floor is probably a little over 115,000 square feet. That's at Sunset Station. And I think what people did people that oppose us and oppose everything that we do, what they did is they threw out a comparison that they knew would inflame local residents, and that's the MGM Grand. When you see that, I think it's just completely a distortion of what's going to happen there. Even when people think of the MGM Grand, they think of 5,000 hotel rooms and everything else. What we're talking about is a square footage for a casino that was approved for the previous applicant from whom we bought the property. And we are just now starting with the design phase of this project. You have to go out and do some feasibility studies, find out, will retail work, do movie theaters belong there, all those sorts of things. How big should this be? We're going through that process right now, and what I tried to indicate in that letter was we're going to be happy to sit down and meet with people and talk to them about what we're doing there when we've gathered that information and when we're a little farther along in terms of what the design process is.
Do you have any idea at all? I mean, is this going to be the largest one that Station Casinos has ever built, would you guess?
No.
You don't think it's going to be?
So
it's probably going to be smaller than the 115,000 square feet at Sunset Station, which is only half the size of the MGM Grand.
That's correct.
All right. There's also some controversy, and this is, I think, what really catches people, too, is this going to be really close to a school. And there's some misconception about the history of how that all came about. You tried to explain that in that letter. Let me read that part of it, too. In fact, we informed the school district and those in attendance at a November 2002 Spring Valley Town Board meeting that we intended to build a resort casino on our property and asked them to keep that in mind as they considered whether the proposed location was the most suitable for the elementary school. Despite our protests, the school district made the decision to build Tanaka Elementary at that location. Now, I find this hard to believe, Mr. Nielsen. I know you can't speak for the school district, but there they are at a meeting a couple of years ago, and you say, listen, we are going to build a casino on this land, make no mistake, and they still put an elementary school just a few hundred feet away?
Well, it's a little farther than a few hundred
1,500
feet. But that's true. That's exactly what happened. I mean, the way that SB 208, the law that established where locals casinos can be, the way that's supposed to work is you're supposed to establish where that's going to be way ahead of everything else that's planned. So people can make a reasonable decision whether or not they want to live next to one or close to one or whatever. So that location for a casino was established back in 1997. And so in 2002, when the school district said, we're going to put a school here, or they were proposing it at that point, we stood up and we waved our hand and we said, look, we're going to build a casino here. Do you really think that's an appropriate spot?
What was the reaction?
The school district said yes. They do believe that's appropriate. And they said they had, I believe, limited choices in terms of where to put a school in that area. And they said, given our choices, this is the best one.
Are they protesting now that you're going to build?
No. The school district is not protesting. They recognize exactly what happened. I mean, residents who are now finding out about that process have brought that up as an issue. But once again, we said, look, this is the way that this unfolded, and talk to the school district if you have a problem.
All right, when we come back, I want to show you what Lynette Boggs-McDonald, the commissioner who represents the district, had to say on this program. We'll talk more about that, and we'll show you some renderings of what that Red Rock station is going to look like with the signs. Back in a moment with Scott Nielsen of Station Casinos.
Love my implants. I'm very confident in smiling and talking. I don't have to worry about them clicking, sliding, or when I cough or sneeze, they stay in.
And they are so comfortable.
Well, these are very easy to take care of. I can eat anything I want.
Well, I no longer suffer because I have implants.
It's wonderful to be able to chew a steak.
If you have questions about implants or dentures
and don't know what to do,
pick up your phone and call AQ.
You told us breaking news is your top priority.
So when big stories hit home, Eyewitness News is on the scene.
Fast.
Good afternoon, everyone. Breaking news this noon.
It's in-depth coverage you won't find anywhere else.
It's clear, concise news.
News that shows how the story matters to you and your community.
It looks like it is a hit and run.
It's not just news.
Not just news.
It's not just news.
It's not just news. It's Eyewitness News.
Vegas Master Singers and University Children's Chorale join the Las Vegas Philharmonic for its annual holiday celebration on December 11th and 12th. Conducted by Harold Weller and Richard McGee, concerts will be held in UNLV's Artemis W. Ham Concert Hall. For tickets, call 895-ARTS. That's 895-2787.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm Jon Ralston. Scott Nielson of Station Casinos is joining us today to talk about the planned Durango Station and Red Rock Station. Lynette Boggs McDonald, Clark County Commissioner who just got reelected, was on the program last week, and she said she hopes you're going to come to them and agree to scale back the project, which apparently hasn't been designed yet. Let me show you what she had to say.
It is my hope that the fact and the reality is that Station Casinos has never built a neighborhood casino to the scale of the entitlement. And so it's my hope is that they will come forward with a proposal that is along the lines of things that they have done in the past, and that they work with the county in trying to say, well, if you give up X amount of square footage, what are more neighborhood compatible uses that we would allow you to build in its place?
Well, she sounds just like you. Is she still on the board? But seriously, have you met with her yet?
I have talked to Lynette.
That must have been like old home week for you guys, or I mean, what is your attitude on this? I mean, let me be a fly in the wall. She comes in and says, "Listen, you know all the heat I've taken politically for being on your board. We got to do something here. You got to help me out here, or I'm going to get killed." Didn't she say something like that?
No, she didn't. What she said was, "Here are the concerns that she's hearing," and she said, "You know, is there something we can do here?" My position with Lynette, obviously, this is a tough situation for her, but my position was, look, we haven't designed this thing yet. So how can I give up entitlements that I paid a lot of money for, over $31 million for this piece of property? How can I give up those entitlements when I haven't designed it yet? When we've designed it, when we're farther down the road in terms of this design process, that'd probably be an appropriate time to sit down and talk about that.
Now, and when you say entitlements, you're talking about the size of the casino, how high you can build it, that kind of thing. But you're saying right now, today, this is not going to be the monstrosity that some are imagining it's going to be down there, that you're going to try to conform to the neighborhood as best you can. Right. And I would assume, even though the school district came in after you, you're going to take into account that this school is relatively near there, aren't you? And how can you do that?
Sure, absolutely are. I mean, there are certain things you can do from the design of the property, the access and entry and exit points and so forth, to try to lessen the amount of traffic and where it's going and so forth. So you can do some of those things, and we certainly want to work with the school. You know, I think as most people know, we have a very close relationship with the school district in terms of supporting high-risk schools in and around our properties, and we have each one of our properties adopts one of those schools. So we work closely not only with the school district but with the local principals, and so we intend to do that here as well. There are things you can do to certainly design it that will be helpful.
You know, it's interesting because the station does do a lot of good things in the community. I don't think anyone's denied that. And you have good public relations in general. But I did see that your public relations person, Leslie Pittman, had something interesting to say in the newspaper. She said that you guys had learned some lessons from what happened a year ago with Red Rock Station. What lessons did you guys learn?
Well, I think we have learned that we need to reach out earlier to the homeowners and to those people that live in the area and are legitimately concerned about what we're building so they can have some input. And so I think we want to get that process started earlier rather than later.
Did you guys just think you're going to go in because you're Station Casinos and get that thing approved a year ago and there would be no controversy at all? Is that really what you thought was going to happen?
No, that wasn't the situation at all. I think that we had a little bit, maybe we had blinders on in that situation. And when we were sitting down and talking to the Howard Hughes Company about what town center was, about what the concept was for really a city center on the western edge of the valley with other buildings that were 250 feet high and so forth, we designed a property that we believed was appropriate for that setting. And that's something that Frank and Lorenzo take great pride in doing. You notice that not all our properties don't all look the same. It's not a cookie cutter process. They really look at a sub-market in Las Vegas and say, what type of property should we build here? And Boulder Station doesn't look like Green Valley Ranch, which isn't going to look like Red Rock Station. And so they really look at that sub-market and try to build something that's appropriate there.
You're talking about Frank and Lorenzo Fertitta, for those who don't know, are the heads of the company. Real quickly, though, isn't what you really did last time, though, is you went in with the 300-foot height and you knew you'd have to compromise, and 200 feet was really what you thought you were going to get all along. Isn't that what happened?
No, I wish I were that smart, John, but I'm not.
That's not what happened.
That's not what happened at all. We really wanted to build something that was appropriate height and that would conserve the footprint on the property. we really looked at how things belong, where they belonged, and how we should design this thing. And we thought 300 feet was the right height.
When we come back, you brought us some drawings. Let's take a look at what Red Rock Station is going to look like and what the sign's going to look like. And we'll talk about whether that's going to get approved by the County Commission and whether Mr. Nielson and his friends tried to sneak it through. We'll talk about that when Face to Face returns.
People say Las Vegas weather's always pretty much the same.
Want to bet on it?
Conditions here change fast with extreme climate differences.
From one side of town to the other. The only way to know exactly what to expect is Eyewitness News Neighborhood Weather.
With nearly 90 reporting stations in southern Nevada, only Neighborhood Weather gives you a forecast that's accurate.
Right down to the street where you live.
It's not just weather, it's neighborhood weather.
Turn to your local newspaper, the Las Vegas Sun, every evening. Steve Gehrman, get the inside on UNLV roundball and football from one who knows. Look for Steve Daly. Ron Kentowski, outspoken, controversial, interesting, witty. He's been calling them the way he sees them for 17 years in Las Vegas. Brian Hildebrand, stock car racing from one of the country's foremost NASCAR experts. Turn to the Sun. Subscribe today, 383-0400.
I'm 80 years old and I can read without glasses.
I can go to the movies and not have to wear my glasses.
I'm one of 110 million people in this country who needs to wear glasses or contacts. Until recently, I wasn't aware that there were any options for improving my vision, except of course for laser surgery, which I just wouldn't even consider. I figured I'd just have to keep spending money every year buying stronger and stronger glasses as my eyes got worse and worse, and that was it. Boy, was I wrong. There is another alternative. The doctors who created the See Clearly method believe that in just minutes a day, you could be seeing clearer and sharper than you ever thought possible. So call right now for your free video that introduces the power of the See Clearly method. Just think about the possibilities. Please do yourself and those you love a favor. Call now and see for yourself.
And it was like, wow, I can read, I can see. It was incredible.
You're watching Face to Face with Jon Ralston.
Welcome back. It's the holiday season and Station Casinos is in trouble again with some residents. It was Red Rock Station a year ago. Now it's Durango Station. Scott Nielson, who's the Executive Vice President of the company, is here today. Let's talk about Red Rock Station and the sign issue. There was a tremendous amount of controversy. It was seen as kind of a watershed moment in this community, neighborhood activists rising up to stop something. Do you consider that a big loss for the company looking back on it now?
No, I don't think it was a big loss. It's a little unfortunate that we had to go through that. As I say, the lesson learned from that was we should have gotten neighborhood people more involved earlier in the process. And, you know, we had designed something that we thought was appropriate, and they obviously didn't. But I don't see it as a big loss, and I think people will, once they see this project, will realize that it's going to be a real plus for that whole area.
Are you now, though, trying to shut out those people who were involved in that, some of those community activists we talked about in the program, because you think they were able to stir up enough opposition and get enough publicity, which really obviously played a role in this, to stop what you were trying to do? Are you trying to shut them out now?
No, not at all. And that's not the reason we decided not to meet with that group. We thought that there were more appropriate people to meet with, and as I said before, I think they have a different agenda in terms of perhaps representing some other people in the community, culinary union leadership for one, that would like Station to have problems wherever we go.
Let's take a look at what Red Rock Station is going to look at and what the signs are going to look at. Let's put those pictures up. Here's the property there. It looks like a nice place. It still doesn't look exactly like a neighborhood casino is envisioned, though, does it? Let's take a look at those signs right now that are now going to be approved. Let's talk about that now, Mr. Nielson. There was some controversy and some of the activists said, oh, you guys put this on the consent agenda to try to sneak it through. What was the agreement you made when Red Rock Station went through what you went through with them, with the county commission a year ago, about the signs? What was the agreement you made with these residents?
The agreement with the residents was that we would come back to them and that we would show the residents of that area what we intended to do with the signage. The reason why it was on a consent agenda is because it complies with all the rules and regulations associated with signage, but that wasn't our decision. We didn't know it was on a consent agenda until the agenda came out, and I believe the opposition knew about that about the same time we did, so we had no hand in that.
And let's be clear, too, at any time in any government body, an item on the consent agenda can be pulled forward for a discussion. It's probably what's going to happen now, wouldn't you guess?
Yeah, we're certain that'll happen.
Yeah, we're certain that you're certain that that's going to happen. Since we only have a few minutes left, I do want to bring up something that you've talked about a couple times. That's the culinary union,
right.
Which obviously wants to get its station in every public fight it can because it has not been unable to organize your company. Is there any chance that the culinary union will ever be able to organize station casinos? How opposed are the Fertittas is what I'm asking you.
Well, you know, we've always said we're not opposed to the culinary union. If our team members, as we call them, decide that that's how they want to be represented, they're free to do that. And they're free to do that at any time.
That is what every company head has ever said. That's what Sheldon Adelson perfected that line, too. I mean, if they're opposed to having a union there, that's fine. Why not just say that? Are they opposed to having a union in there?
They're not opposed. They're not opposed to it. And, you know, it really is a decision of those employees. I think our company, it would be particularly difficult to organize in the typical way of going on property and trying to persuade the employees or team members to do that. And so what they've embarked on, the culinary union leadership has embarked on, is really a campaign to try to harass us and embarrass us. And so we eventually just say, okay, we've had enough. We'll hand over those team members.
Work with the Frontier, didn't it? That's
yes.
what they did. It worked almost 10 years, I think it took them, but they kept it up. They're known for the longevity of their battles. Are you worried about that at all?
Well, you know, we recognize that what Detailer has indicated, that we're, you know, kind of #1 on their hit list. But, you know, we run our business the best way we can. We believe that we treat our team members fairly, we compensate them well, and so we don't see it as being a problem.
Station Casinos is involved in other places besides Las Vegas. One of the more notable places is Thunder Valley, which is this place up in northern Nevada, which has really hurt Reno.
Northern California.
Okay, yeah, well, okay, exactly. But it's just across the mountains
right.
From Reno. Do you feel guilty at all for what you've done to the Reno economy up there?
No. You know, when I look at the Reno economy, it's interesting because I see that the Reno economy has actually done pretty well. The downtown gaming area has been significantly impacted, but overall the Reno economy still looks like it's growing and still looks like it's doing very well. You know, as a publicly traded company, we have an obligation to go out and grow that company for shareholder value. We build a good project, you know, outside of Sacramento, but I think Reno's rebounding and responding to that as well.
All right, Scott Nielson from Station Casinos, thanks for coming on the program.
You bet.
All right.
Thank you.
If you want to contact me, you can email me at ralston@vegas.com, or you can call me at 650-1976. You can also click on the face-to-face link at lasvegassun.com for the latest schedule updates. You can also click on the face-to-face link at KLAS-TV.com, catch the program in streaming video.